So we're going to talk a little bit today with him about his journey before real estate, coming into real estate, what it's been like in our coaching program, and what's next. A lot of great lessons in here, a lot of great things to unpack. I hope you guys find it very inspirational because this guy's the real deal. Stay tuned for this our interview with coaching student Brendan Garland. What I like to do is, tell a little bit about your story of who you were and what you were doing before you came in, and talk a little bit about your journey with us and and then, what's your journey like from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting. So I started investing like 7 years ago. I bought I don't know if I told this story before, but I bought a duplex, moved into one side of it over in Keene, and then fixed up the other side, rented it out. So I house hacked my first property. That was December 2017. Um, I think it was in 2020 until I bought my second property. It was actually the house next door. There's another duplex out in Keene. Um, I kind of knew the owner from, those houses are really close by. So he had the roof replaced and the siding and stuff. And he had all the crap in our driveway. So I called him up and I was like, what's going on? So anyways, I had a little bit of a relationship with him. I knew who he was, right? So I actually got that second property via owner financing,
Wow.
which was pretty cool. So I purchased it. It was on the market. It wasn't selling. So I made him an offer. I think it was $200,000. That was back then. It was pretty cool. You could buy a duplex for 200,000.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah. But I owner finance like the whole thing. I think I put down like $10,000.
Wow.
Did the same thing. So I moved over to that property. We lived in it for another year.
So then you
Fixed up the
started
second.
renting out the other duplex.
Yep.
Brendan moved out. So no, then house hack the owner financing one,
Yep.
and then you're
Exactly.
renting out 3 units, living in one.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So we moved into the first floor of that one. I completely renovated that unit while we were living in it. The upstairs unit was already rented and we just kept it with the same tenants just so we could get the rental income coming through. Um, I only owned that property for like 2 years and then I ended up selling both of those duplexes in 2022 and 2023. So last year and the year before, right
Okay.
after COVID. Made some decent money on both of them. Obviously, they both appreciated a pretty good amount, which was cool. And then from there, I really wanted to the for me that 3 years that it took me to do those two deals was like just crazy to me. Like I was like, this is way too slow. How do we do this
Right.
faster,
Yeah.
right?
House hacking
Because I
way too
still
long.
had a W-2 job and I hated it. I wanted to get out and things
What
like
was your
that.
W-2 job?
So I worked back in 2017. Actually, I started working for a company called CNS Wholesale Grocers.
Okay.
It's a wholesale
Out of
grocer selling.
Keene.
Yep, out of Keene.
My friend Joe Page
They
used to work for
basically,
them back in
pro-
the day.
yeah, yeah. They provide. I mean, they pretty much run the whole city. Like
Yeah.
it's a $50 billion company that happens to be in Keene. Um, they provide groceries to the grocery stores.
Yep.
Basically, I was a financial analyst for them. Started in 2017, got promoted a couple times. I was on track to become a director or whatever. At the time, that was 130, $140,000 a year. I
Wow.
was making 105 at the time, and I was just like, I don't know. I can envision it being my career, right? It was
Okay.
already so stressful. I was only into it for like 2 years. I got promoted a few times, but we were on a team that was, presenting to executives like every week. So it was just super stressful. Um, so I was looking for a way to invest in real estate faster than just buying house hacks.
Okay. Love it.
And I didn't have the cash to just buy a bunch of rentals, right? So I went through like probably a full year of trying to figure out how to wholesale or do something else on my own, um, while I was still working at CNS, and never really did any deals. I learned a lot. I watched a ton of YouTube videos, stuff like that, just kind of trying to teach myself. but I never ended up doing any deals. The first deal that I got last year was, let me try to think of this. It was right before I joined the coaching program.
So like the
Um,
summer of 2023.
yeah, so this was exactly, I think I closed on it October 1st of
Okay.
2023, and that's pretty much right when I joined. But I was under contract prior to that. It was a deal that my broker brought to me and basically said, hey, this couple wants to sell their house, but I don't think it's ready for the market, needs some work. So do you think you might be interested in it? And I had sold myself to her as like, I'm an investor. This is the type of stuff that I do, right? Because I was trying to get into it. So it's like
Yeah.
trying to network with her. And she brought me the deal, which was awesome. So then I had to
Wow.
figure it out, right?
All right. So let's backtrack a second here because I just want to make sure I completely understand and anybody who watches this understands. So you started out house hacking, and then you were basically living in one unit. You had two duplexes. You sold them. Then you moved to a different part of the state. When you moved to the different part of the state and sold them, were you still working for the grocer at that time?
Yeah.
When did you quit your job with the grocer?
So this is a funny story too. Formally, I quit my job at the end of 2022 after I sold the properties
Okay.
and I was trying to get into real estate full time. I had some cash, I felt comfortable. What happened like literally a week after I quit was my manager at the time reached back out to me and she said, hey, everybody left like at the same time and I'm screwed basically. So I signed like a 1099 contract with them to come back on and finish out like 6 months of a budget session with them. But
Okay.
that ended up re I re-upped that
Renewed it.
contract once, so I did a full extra year with them.
Okay. So you got your first flip in October of 2023. Here we're recording this in August 2024. You joined our coaching program right around the same time, October in 2023. You were still working a full-time job as a 1099 for the grocer until the December, right? The end of that year. So you were
Yeah.
doing it a few months. So obviously it took you like 10 months to get your first deal, but you obviously probably weren't fully focused on it because you were 1099 in this other deal, but you had some money to kind of sit on. You got this deal from a broker who brought it basically a pocket listing to you. You weren't really finding any other ways to get deals at that time. What made you reach out to us to join our coaching program? What about it made you say this is the right choice for me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had gone through what's that, like 8 months, 9 months of YouTube University trying to figure out how to do it on my own. And I had always seen you guys in the market, right? I saw all these deals coming through, and I'm like, how the hell did I get so many deals? Things like that, just thinking of things in my mind. And I'm like, I could probably go find one deal, but like they're doing like 30, 40, 50 deals. So how do I do that, right? So I'd always been trying to kind of figure that out. Um, and I just saw a story. I think it was a story that you posted because we were Facebook friends, and
Yeah.
you mentioned the coaching program, and I was like, holy shit, like this is definitely something that I want to get involved in because this is exactly what I'm trying to learn how to do, right?
Yeah.
So let's learn from the people that I'm trying to figure out how they're doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you joined October, roughly around that time. You're one of our first students, if I remember correctly. Well, our first few anyway. You're obviously flipping a house, and then you start working with Dan in the small group coaching program. So what did it look like, coming into our coaching program? Was it like what you expected? Was it different? Was it overwhelming? Was it too much information? Was it not enough information? What was you feeling about the whole process?
no, it was great. So yeah, I already had my first flip, under contract in the works. That actually lit the fire, right? I was like, all right, well, I got this under contract and I got it at a great price, but how do I do this, right? I don't have the money to close on this. So I was scrambling trying to find, private money, all that stuff. And I ended up coming across, three or four different people that had money. and wanted to, I explained the process to them. I explained the deal and everything like that. And I got the money within like a week, which was very
Wow,
surprising to me. Because that
that's
was
awesome.
what had been holding me up for the last 5 years. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So that was all kind of happening as I was joining the coaching program.
The stars are all aligning.
Yeah. So I was getting excited, right? And then, yeah, once I started, meeting with Dan and learning more, how to talk with sellers, how to even get the appointments set up, right? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't going on any appointments. Um, you know, certain marketing strategies. The first couple weeks, or at least the first couple months, actually, I think it was only like 3 or 4 of us in the coaching program, which is
Yeah.
awesome because we basically had like a one-on-one with Dan for an hour and a half every week. So we were asking a ton of questions. He was giving us great, tidbits of information on marketing, operations, everything.
Yeah.
So that was super helpful of like jump starting my, direct to seller outreach. That's when I started doing, just hustling, right? I was doing cold calling, mailing. I was actually physically doing the mailing. I was folding the letters, putting them in the things, writing them out. What I did, I was like write out a little handwritten note and then do a photocopy of like 100 and do that every week and fold them
That's awesome.
myself.
I love it.
Um, and yeah, I started to get a little bit more traction around that time.
Yeah. All right. So you joined in October, you get your house flipped. So like, walk us through like the next 6 months. What did that look like? How many deals did you get? What kind of deals did you get? Obviously, you said you got some private lending, you were starting to get traction. What did that traction look like as far as deal flow?
Yeah, absolutely. So that first deal I had closed on it in October. I ended up I put like $15,000 into the property and then ended up selling it for 295. I bought it for 150, put 15 into it, sold it for 295.
Wow.
Um, I
So
own I owed a pretty good
six figure
amount of
flip.
interest,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was good.
That's good, man. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's great. All right, so that's in November. And then what? What came from it from there? What did you start pulling in?
Yeah, right around November, I think 1 month into the coaching program, just about is when I started getting, actual deals coming in. So I had 3 or 4 deals that I was working on at that time. Um, Bought another flip over in Keene. It was a small bungalow. Um, again, bought it for 150. I think we put like 7,500 into that one. We did the exterior painting. We did some flooring. It was a hoarder house, so we did like 4 30-yard dumpsters worth of stuff out of this 2 bedroom bungalow. So that was like the major value add, is getting it just cleaned out, and we were actually surprised the property was in great shape. It
Yeah.
just had a bunch of stuff in it.
Couldn't see it under all that mess, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So it was actually cool because one of the bedrooms had been full of her stuff since she moved in, and she had been there for 10 years. So
Wow.
those floors were like immaculate.
Man. Awesome.
So yeah, we just cleaned it out, did some exterior painting, some flooring, and then listed it for 230. And we ended up
Wow.
getting a full price offer on that one.
Wow. In a market with high interest rates, right? Winter, right, in New England, which is a terrible time, high interest rates, and you're still moving deals and making money. Good deals, by the way.
Yeah, we actually painted that property in like February, March. We just had like 2 weeks of warm enough weather. We were out there painting. It was amazing. I was thinking we were gonna have to wait till like May, but we got it done, which is awesome. Um, After that, what else did I do? So we still had leads coming in. I got my list right here. So let's see. We had another lead that was super promising, but we didn't end up actually buying house. It was another one over in Keene. It was a really nice property, but it was being rented out. It was a single family. Um, he's still got it rented out. I'm still actually in touch with the guy, but it was one of those leads that was like November, December, right after I was,
Yeah.
starting the program. Um, it would have been a really good one. His terms were funny. He like wanted to he liked the tenants, I guess. So he wanted to sell the property to me, but he also wanted, like, right when we sold it or right when I purchased it, he wanted to sign like a 2-year lease with a tenant so that we couldn't like kick him out or whatever,
Oh, wow.
which I get, but like,
Yeah,
it wouldn't I wouldn't have made any money on it. So
yeah, right,
we're
sure.
still kind of working through that with him.
Okay. So obviously you joined in October. We're here in August, coming on almost 12 months you've been in the coaching program. You really haven't been active in the coaching program for the last handful of months, mostly probably because, you're a rock star these days and you have a baby and, you're doing other things. So, outside of that first deal that you kind of got on your own before the coaching program, like, what do you think of like, what did you get for value out of your first 6 months? Like, how much money did you make? How many deals did you get? Like, what did that look like for you personally?
Yeah, so in total, not including that first deal, which I would argue that the first deal also should be included because part of it, I was in the coaching program right when I purchased it, and it definitely helped me through it. Just realizing that, I probably would have, if I didn't join the coaching program and I did that first flip myself, instead of spending $15,000 on it, I probably would have spent like 50. You know what I
Okay,
mean? So,
good to know.
kind of just, learning how to, study the market, see what's going on. People are going to pay X amount for this property as is. And the other thing that I hadn't even thought about was, this is a tangent, but we bought it for 150, sold it for 295. It was an FHA buyer. That's the maximum amount I can even sell it to an FHA buyer. They
Right.
can't pay more than double of what I bought it for. So I may have spent more money and then ended up losing that because, if I did end up selling it to an FHA buyer, I would have been,
Right, right.
stuck at
Save
300
yourself.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So that was a huge value add right there. After that, we went on and did that one in Keene. We did one in Ringe, New Hampshire. Um, we purchased one in Moultonboro, part of the marketing, all the marketing that I was doing during that first quarter of this year. We bought one in Charlestown. We just went under contract on another one. And I have like 10 leads that I'm working on. So,
Wow. Frank you.
in the past, what is that, 9 months, 10 months, we've, I've totally exploded, as a part of just really focusing on the outreach and marketing and talking to sellers and stuff like that.
So if you think of like a year ago, right? So you're now in August of 2023. You've been struggling for, 8 months. You haven't got this first deal yet. If you knew you were going to be fast forward a year from that point to where you are today, looking at where you are today with all the deals that you've done, all the momentum you got, and you no longer work for a W-2, you're living life on your own terms. You feel like you reached where you would have hoped to reach in a year? Do you think you've exceeded what you thought you'd be in a year?
Yeah, I've definitely exceeded what I expected. Honestly, I had that one deal under contract and I was like, all right, let me just spend a little bit of money, see if I learn anything, see if it helps, whatever. If I do 2 deals next year, then I'll be happy because, I had a little bit of money. I was doing fine, but I really just wanted to, my goal ever since I was like 16 is to be a real estate investor. I really just wanted to do it.
Okay.
So I just couldn't figure it out. And when it started to click, August, September, October, join the coaching program. And this past year, it's really like I totally get it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can confidently say that I can continue to do deals like this, forever, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I never would have been able to say that by just watching YouTube
YouTube
videos, which I mean,
University.
there's a ton of information on YouTube, but
Yeah.
you don't
But
get
what do you
the,
know is right or wrong?
yeah, you don't get the practical, like, okay, Dan's done this 1,000 times. Like that guy on YouTube, maybe he's done it 1,000 times, but you
Yeah.
don't really know. You don't have that confidence.
What I always tell people too is like, obviously, as an investor, getting into the coaching program and learning this, right? But once you get to this point, you now have a skill set that, you could talk about what kind of return will I get on my investment and investing into a coaching program. Sure, you can look at it over the 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, but really the return is an infinite, right? Because now you have a skill set and knowledge that you will never have to work a W-2 again. You're never going to be broke again. You know, now you have the skill set to basically pull money out of thin air by finding off-market properties that are distressed, taking them with private lending, taking them down, doing different types of rehab because that's your business model. You're not so much a wholesaler, you're a fix and flipper guy, and turning it into big revenue. And now you are a full-time, part-time working full-time guy, real estate investor who's living his dream. Pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's definitely crazy. I wouldn't have expected that I would have been able to do it that quickly. I was honestly worried about having to, go back to work and stuff like that because I had already kind of quit, and then I was like, well, if this isn't going to happen, then I'm just going to have to go back, and it would have been fine. I had something to fall back on, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. So definitely happy that it worked out, got the skills. I still want to build on what I'm doing because right now, taking everything down is good, like in theory, but it just takes so much time and resources that I want to do like more of a hybrid model. I really want to learn how to wholesale or even to do, more of like a wholesale model, so that we're not spending so much money and time with like the logistics of the renovations and things like that. I've run into lots of time delays that I just didn't expect on some of these projects. So, it's not all like, flowers and daisies, but like I'm obviously making money, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work and a lot of coordination that I don't necessarily need to be doing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, how do you think your outlook on the business and industry has changed since you started?
So I think that I had a really closed mindset before I joined the coaching program in the sense that like I thought, all right, I just have to buy rentals and I'm going to cash flow $400 a month. And eventually, I'll be able to quit my job and eventually I'll have freedom because, if you get 10, 15 properties and they're all cash flowing $400 and they're appreciating, that's great. But how do you get there? How do you get the $2 million to do that? You know what I mean? Um, my outlook has completely changed because now I'm I'm under the my business model right now for the next, I'd say, like 2 to 5 years is, and this may change depending on how much money I make and things like that, but I'm not even looking at buying rentals right now. And the reason being is I want to build up a ton of cash, have a cash flowing business that I can start to like delegate things and actually have a business that's running without me, quote unquote, not necessarily like fully back out of the business, but just, not work 60 hours a week.
Yeah, so work on the business, not in the business.
Yeah, exactly. So get to a point like that and then go ahead and take all my cash and start to buy more rentals because that's more of like my retirement plan. Um, so I'm 34, I don't envision ever really retiring, like in the true sense of not doing anything.
Sure.
But I have a lot of time to be able to get there. So right now I really just want to focus on building this business and having a really solid cash flowing business.
I love it. I love it. What do you think are over the course of like the last 8 months in the coaching program and just your journey in real estate since you started? What do you think are some lessons you've learned over that time period?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was, I had been hearing, like I said, YouTube University. Oh, you don't need any money to get started in real estate. You can do this, you can do that. And I'm like, okay, I understand the concept, right? But I've been trying to do something for 5 years and I can't figure it out. So, how does this actually work? I think the biggest lesson that I've learned, the biggest clarity that I've been given as a part of this past year was it really does work like that. You just have to work. You have to work to get there, right? You have to talk to sellers. Doesn't matter. You don't have to go find $1 million first and then talk to sellers. You got to talk to the sellers first, find a deal. The money, surprisingly to me, does actually just come. You just got to talk to people. You have to network with people who you think might have, money in their 401ks or private lenders, hard money lenders, even, which I haven't worked with any true hard money lenders, but I look at like a Zach Richards or the other guy down in Pennsylvania. My
Yep.
mind is like they're
Ron.
kind of like my hard money lenders, even
Yeah.
though they're more private.
Yep.
Because they'll do, 80-90% of the purchase and then I get private money for the rest. So um, that was like my biggest thing was I didn't know how to overcome that mental hurdle of not having the money before trying to find the deals. And yeah, you really don't. It's true. Like you definitely don't have to worry about that until you find a deal. And if it's actually a deal, then the money will be there for sure.
100%. So knowing what you know now, and we'll kind of wrap this up with a couple more questions, but knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would maybe do differently when you
Yeah,
just
I
started?
think I've been following Bigger Pockets and everything that I can get my hands on since I was 16 years old. So um, knowing what I know now, I probably would have started when I was like 18.
Me too. Me
But
too. Great answer.
whatever.
All right, and for somebody who's obviously, I mean, you're a rock star. You're one of our best students who's came into the program. You put into it, or you got out of it. We put into it. I mean, you just took that knowledge and ran with it and had great success. It's been fun to watch. Me and Dan talk about. We're just really proud of all your success. It's really awesome to see. So for anybody who's new, right? Let's just look at Brendan, like, 2 years ago, right? He wants to quit his W-2, maybe it's house hack, maybe hasn't house hack, wants to be a real estate investor. What would you give advice for that person who's kind of like, doesn't really know where to go, is looking at YouTube University, maybe has analysis paralysis, but wants to do it? Like, what would you recommend for somebody like that?
Yeah, it's a great question because I'm trying to think back to like when I was in that spot. What if somebody had given me something or told me something to get me to, you know, do this earlier?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me was like the proof of concept in the sense that I knew it was possible because I've been seeing you guys do it. That's why I wanted to figure it out. Right. So I knew it was possible. So I knew that there was a proof of concept. I didn't understand the full process and I didn't have all the answers. Right. So I didn't get started. So I would say either find the coaching program is perfect where as long as the coach is somebody who's actually in the business and actually doing deals. Don't spend $50,000 on like a seminar, you know what I mean? Definitely don't do that. But find a mentor, somebody who's in the business, knows what they're doing. You can prove to yourself that they're actually doing deals, and just ask them questions on how do you get started, right? So my biggest thing would be telling people just go do it, right? Go talk to sellers, go get a deal locked up. But if I was listening to that kind of sentiment 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I just didn't believe it. So, somebody could be listening to this and say, oh, cool, just another person telling you to get started. But um, it really is true. You just need somebody there to answer your questions and help you through it, I think. So yeah, go to your meetups, go to, find a coach that's, reasonable, really high level coaching program, or just find a mentor that's in the business and doing it right now.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, as a coach, it sounds like I'm biased here, but even before a coach, I always believe in coaching. And, I think there's three things that's really important for when you're looking into coaching, right? Is one, are they in the business or have they been doing the business long enough to show success? Do they have, students that are having some success? And third, like, this is really important. Do you vibe with that person, right? Do you feel like you connect with them? Because not all coaches or all people we get along with, right? And I think that has to be a kind of vibe like that. And I think with Dan, he's so easy to vibe with, right? He's so good, and I feel sometimes I'm like a little fanboy, and like I just listen to him. Go Dan, go, you know. And I love listening to him because he's so good. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So basically, you were 10 months into your real estate flipping journey, right? Outside of the house hacking, you started your first flip October, here in August. You're already at a point where you're thinking, now I'm thinking about getting out of working in the business and working on the business. That's a tremendous growth in a shorter period of time. And that's really impressive. That's really exciting to see where you're going to be going from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. And I think obviously there's some things that I need to figure out. I'm hitting some roadblocks. You know, I have four different properties that I'm either under contract or I own right now. So I'm, running into some cash flow problems, things like that. Like there are things that you're going to run into, but um, just knowing that it's possible and it's not, this isn't the end of my journey, which is awesome. So I'm super excited about the future. And yeah, I think it just would encourage anybody that's trying to get involved is spend time. Like don't just sit on YouTube and listen to the videos. Like if you're interested in what somebody has to say, reach out to them and talk to them. Spend time at your meetups, spend time talking to people because that's when, if you start networking with people who are in the business, you're going to run into opportunities, even just by putting yourself out there. So
I couldn't agree more. And Brendan, you know what I do when I'm in your situation and I have, business problems because I have four different things, cash flow, blah, blah. I call my coach. He always seems to
yeah,
have an answer
yeah,
because he's always been through it before me. So that's where coaches are great for, to help us get through those things. And those things you don't learn on YouTube University. Hey, you have four deals that, you're starting to struggle with cash flow. Some things aren't moving. You may be over leveraged, or, you might be struggling with contractors. What do you do? Oh, there's no YouTube video on that.
yeah,
Shucks. All right. Because that's real world business problems, right? So
yep.
awesome. Well, Brendan, thank you so much for doing this today, man. It's been great to see your success. I know you have much more success ahead of you, not only professionally, but personally with your growing family. You're one of the best around here, brother, and it's been a real pleasure to be connected with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. I think we're done recording. So thanks, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.